welcome to On the Road to DevHops. I'm Trac Bannon, and every so often I get together with my buddy Bryan Finster, and occasionally we bring somebody else along so that we can spar a little bit. Bryan, say hello, introduce our guest today, please.
Yeah, I'm Bryan. I write code and today having bourbon and Coke. I'd like to introduce you to Benjie from Shipyard. And Shipyard works on ephemeral environments, but we may or may not talk about that. I don't know. We'll see how the conversation goes. Benjie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Benjie, co-founder and CEO and chief architect at Shipyard. I am drinking, you can't see it. Oh, no, I got
word out. Yeah,
well, put your hand behind it. Don't they do that thing where you like put your hand behind it? Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Okay.
Good job. Okay. Tracy knows. I'm drinking a decaf oat milk latte, just to be as lame as possible.
No, that actually sounds good. Bryan, you have something snarky there, right? Huh?
Yeah. And so anyway, and co-founder at shipyard.build. We focus on ephemeral environments, or really just environment lifecycle management. So when you make a code change or push a commit or open a PR, we manage the lifecycle of environments that are created when that happens. So ideally, when those things happen, you get a fully idempotent environment that has all the dependencies so you can test, run, and do all kinds of stuff. And a big thing there to keep in mind is it's not just for developers, which is a big use case for us, but also for other stakeholders at your organization. So product folks, QA folks, C-level people that want to see work in progress features. And it's really about unblocking your team, be it because staging is broken or testing and migration before you do that, or running your end-to-end tests beforehand. So that's kind of what we focus on at Shipyard. But happy to talk DevOps anything with you folks. Been doing that for way too long.
I was going to say, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Oh, hold on. No, Bryan, we know that you're drinking bourbon. We know that Benjie, well, you have to see this new thing that has happened in my life. I'm going to see if you guys can see this. Can you see the glitter? That is food glitter, food safe glitter. And now every drink that I have, it can be bronze, it can be copper, it can be gold. And this is one of my special seltzers, but it's sparkly.
How safe? How can
well,
glitter be
so
safe?
far, I don't know. But so far, as it has gone in and as it has come out, I haven't noticed any color changes. So I don't know. It'll probably find out in a couple of years that I've killed my kidney. And when I call y'all for a transplant.
I don't know. That seems like a high risk, low reward sort of addition to it.
No, look at that. Look at that. It's like magical. It's like sparkles. It's
your video's a little grainy. Maybe that's why we're not seeing it. But yeah, I know. But asbestos was a miracle thing too at the beginning. So
that's very true. That's very true. And I went to a school that had asbestos as a decorative element in on the upper half. They had tile up to like 5 or 6 feet, and then above that, it was all this looked like cotton. Yeah, it was asbestos.
Well, maybe the safe sparkles or glitter are a good way to counteract the asbestos in your system.
So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I have nothing to live for. And I can tell you, Benjie, that all these ephemeral environments, all your stuff's going to go away because Bryan has mastered the LLM. So goodbye, dude.
Great.
There's one thing. There's one thing I want to say about ephemeral environments, because I don't know how many people have experienced the joy that I've had, where my ephemeral environment was the team that every month they would refresh the test boxes that all the other teams shared tests on. That was, once the test box got too unstable, they would go and tear it down and rebuild it. That was my ephemeral environments for many years. That's so joyful.
Yep. I remember.
I mean, it's like when you lose all your tabs because your computer crashed. Version of ephemeral environments. We're trying to do it a little differently than that, but sometimes it's kind of simple.
So I just have to click on the save all my all my tabs before, or make sure reopen with all tabs open. That's all I need to do now.
Yeah, but then I'm a big incognito user, so you do lose some.
I'm wondering about.
It's kind of by design. It's the only way that I can close tabs.
So what do we really want to talk about today? You guys met on Tech Tinder online somehow and had a conversation, and Bryan was like, "Ah, man, we got to get together with Benjie. We got to talk about some stuff." Bryan, what were you guys talking about the first time that you met?
Oh, well, the first time we were talking about ephemeral environments, but then it started diving into Battlestar Galactica and aliens and all kinds of other stuff, because we both squirrel and nerd out about all kinds of stuff, and it just kind of goes off track from there. But honestly, the thing we could just talk about is how do we make the work suck less, because I think that's definitely what Benjie works on, is focused on making how the work sucks less. I've been having all sorts of really interesting conversations this week with people that either identify as testers or QA or whatever. I'm not dismissing them, but they have different ways they self-identify what they do, about how to do that better to make the work suck less, or in some cases, do it our way, even though it makes the work suck, depending on how I'm talking to you. So there's all kinds to really talk about.
You are sometimes not as nice to those who what would you call themselves, who identify as testers. And so
no, I'm an equal opportunity offender. If you're saying things that will harm our ability to make the work suck less, then I'm equally nice to, no matter what you call yourself.
Well,
I'm gonna back Bryan up on this. Anytime, he'll be mean to everybody as long as you're being an idiot. That's kind of my.
I think have I told you what my favorite Bryan quote is?
You have not told me.
Nothing's worse than an idiot than a smug idiot. I actually wrote that down. I shared that with lots of people because that's Bryan's attitude in life. So yeah, it is true. Yeah, I'd say that
it's not my. I tend to agree.
I think the reason that we're getting into the more of an open discussion with folks who have traditionally had the moniker tester is that things are changing. It's continuing to change, right? How we've done things for 20 years is not going to be how we're going to be doing it going forward. It's been changing for a while, right, Benjie? It's been changing for a while.
Well, this is what I can tell you. My background is on the tech side. I've been a DevOps person. I mean, the first thing I ever did was I wrote like a quasi orchestration layer for Linodes and virtual machines, like, because it was before EC2, like I think S3 was the only thing on AWS at the time, and I was in Bash, right? I've done Ansible, I've done Chef, I've done Puppet, I've done Salt, I've done Terraform, I've done Pulumi, I've done a lot of stuff in this space, and so I've definitely been on it from the infrastructure side and trying to enable the testing side. Not that they're against each other. But what I will say is a transition from manual QA and manual UAT to automated has definitely been accelerating. I would attribute that to Cypress and Playwright in particular. We were kind of stuck with WebDriver and Selenium for like 15 years, and that was tough. And now things like, again, Playwright and Cypress are really accelerating that. So I've seen a big transition where you have manual testers becoming automation engineers, or whatever the right term is there. Yeah. And I think that has to do with tooling. I think that has to do with portability of code, of infrastructure, of all those things. And so I'm definitely seeing that transition. I do think that a human in the loop in a few of those spots is pretty critical, or you run into all kinds of problems. But I do think that you're seeing, to bring it back to the aliens reference, for those that don't know, Wyland Corp, I'm sure you guys probably discussed this already. But, the way that I thought about Shipyard, but also kind of the way that I think about Cypress and Playwright is, the exoskeleton from Ripley in Aliens, where she's got the arms and stuff like that. And just like, you can do so much more, but you still kind of need a human in the middle. Now, maybe Bryan's going to come in and tell us you just need an LLM in the middle, but
he's drinking the Kool-Aid. We're trying to give him more bourbon instead of this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, because when we started
over a decade ago trying to figure out how to do continuous delivery. And we were going hardcore. We're going to do real CD, which means that today's change goes to production today.
Mm-hmm.
That was our goal, because if you never aim for the ultimate, you're never going to get close, right? And so immediately I started thinking about test design. Well, if you work backwards from that goal, you find out you go, well, I can't have my code sent to somebody else to test after, or I can't have somebody manually keyboard pounding before it goes to production. I have to figure out, for my acceptance tests, and I'm going to be very specific about this, for my delivery acceptance tests, that has to be 100% automated. I was talking to someone earlier, because I've had several conversations over the last few days about this. They said that, 100% automation, I mean, that's just an outlandish goal. It's table stakes for continuous delivery. Yes, you have you have humans in the loop for things like continuous exploration, usability testing, but those are parallel to the pipeline. They're not decision points for delivery, because they're not going to be happening at 3 o'clock in the morning either when I'm doing operations, and I need to use that same exact method to deliver change. And so it comes down to, if you take CD seriously, it's the safest, most secure way to deliver change at any time. So we have to design for that goal in mind. And so the test architecture changes, and the mindset around testing changes. And to your point about tools like Playwright and Cypress, it's the same attitude I have around LLMs or anything, or a table saw, is that the tools enhance your abilities. And if you have poor ability, it'll enhance your poor ability, as in make it worse. And so the struggle I've seen over the years, because I've watched this progress as well, is you have manual testers who become test automators, but they don't know anything about the application design that they're testing. They don't understand how to structure out a code anyway, and test code is code. And so they do a sledgehammer approach. We're going to come into the browser, do an end-to-end test, and do the most inefficient, flakiest kind of tests that they can. What I argue for is people who are doing quality assurance, not quality control, who are focusing on that test design, understand how the application's built, that are helping the software engineers design better tests and understand what they should be testing for that they might not be thinking of, so that we can have this really safe pipeline to production with high quality, and not have 8 developers waiting for one person to automate tests.
I want to jump in here because I'm going to pull a couple of things together.
Yeah.
So testers that have transitioned to become automation engineers, you are correct that there's a couple of things that have to happen. And it's likely not that person during their transition that's going to suddenly understand that the architecture of the application is incorrect, right? So there's lots of things that have to reconcile, lots of things that have to line up in order to do CD in the first place, right, Bryan? You have to be an architect. You can't put a steel girder through a wood chipper, right? Like to say that, but it's true. We can't put things out in that way. QA, if you are moving into a quality assurance role where you are going to be developing and delivering, you do have an imperative. You need to learn what is happening inside that application. So we're starting to see an overlap, but definitely not a replacement of the responsibilities of that quality assurance automation specialist and a developer. So we're seeing overlap there. We're also seeing that developers who have been educated that they are going to do test-driven design, very difficult mindset shift if they've never done it, they are starting to help with this. So we're seeing some overlap there. But I want to bring up a third point and want to get Benjie's feel on this piece, which is a lot of people are writing code, including all them our infrastructure folks. They don't do a very good job writing that code. One of the best things that I've seen in the last couple of years was when AWS came out with what's called the CDK that allowed you to apply an object-oriented mindset. So it wasn't all of a sudden I have the mega YAML from hell, right? So we could start to think about object orientation and teaching people. I think we have a fundamental challenge that our infrastructure folks, our folks that were traditionally automation, any kind of automation, I think there's a whole lack of basic understanding of good coding techniques that we need for all these people. I need it for the developers. I need it for the automation person who's learning how to do the automated testing. I need it for the infrastructure guys. I need it for everybody. What do you think about that?
I think that's true. I mean, there's like 37 things that just popped in my brain, and I'm very proud of myself for actually listening and not just interrupting both of you, because you guys are both saying great stuff, and I have a strong opinion about all of it.
37 things. Okay. Well, what's the first one?
All right. First one. No. Well, first one is that Bryan is more of a curmudgeon than I realized, and it makes me like him even more than I already did. So that's the first thing, is he's ingratiating himself more than I thought possible with his curmudgeonliness. But yeah, just kidding, kind of.
Kind of. He just kidding.
Look,
kind of.
So one, and I also want to make sure he understands my point from before, and that is the exoskeleton to build the correct automations and tests, not to inject a human into CD. We're on the same. I just want to make sure that everyone knows I'm not trying to say you.
No. I heard you say we need.
Okay. I feel like he's coming at me with a lightsaber in a second if he hears that wrong.
He's going to. He has a whole bunch of really amazing swords in his house. So you don't want to piss off the big guy.
That's why I'm okay. So those are the first two things.
Okay.
Point number 3 is I think that the promise of CI and CD is realistically flawed, because the quality of DevOps engineer, SRE, platform, DX expert, whatever you want to call it, there's so many names at this point, it's really hard to get good ones. The people that are capable, the $500,000 a year Google SREs or whatever, they're also flawed. I'm sorry to my friends. They're flawed because they approach testing and all this stuff from is the code perfect perspective? Is the test perfect? Well, no one thinks the test is perfect, but some people do. So I think the nuance that I would put in here is that it's continuous from the very get-go, because of a lack of like universal principle. I don't know how to say this correctly, but basically we've been setting ourselves up for failure. So that's why things like minimum CD, I think, are really important to like, whoa. This is what we're actually trying to do. And the biggest problem in my mind is if you look at the SDLC, software development lifecycle, of every single company, CI is the same thing as CD, or is it not? And at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I've got this bash script that calls this Terraform that instantiates a EKS cluster, and half of it uses CDK because it's using the CDK module. The other half uses CloudFormation for some reason. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes it's not deterministic, but sometimes it is. And then the infrastructure loads from Circle, and then I run a Helm chart apply for most of my services. But this other service over here was like a Kubernetes ingress, or sorry, Nginx ingress, but it was with a Kubernetes YAML for some reason. But you can't change that one because no one really, we never templatized that one because you don't need to. Oh, and then there's that static RDS thing that like we share data. So my point is that it's a spaghetti mess. And so the core and this is a little biased because this is kind of about Shipyard, but the core thing here is that if you go to any software org, every single one of those has their own custom deployment environment management component. And it's probably written by a Bryan, a Benjie, or a Tracy. And as much as obviously the three of us are the smartest people in this room,
in these 3 rooms, we're
flawed. Our thought process is different than the next person's thought process. And I'm going to tear it all out and I'm going to put my own version of it. So it's this spaghetti disaster, is that the problem, the foundation of everything is the problem with CD, or why the promise of continuous is always this most commonly something that we're always reaching for. So I don't know if that ties anything together here.
I want to touch on 2 points because I think this is really important. The first one is going back to Tracy's question about infrastructure and people going into test automation, but didn't come in through a software development background. Also, honestly, a lot of software developers, at least most software developers, use version control. it's amazing how uncommon it is for infrastructure people who've started coding these.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So to Tracy's point, there's some fundamental training that needs to happen to people who are starting to use code to do their jobs when it wasn't traditionally that. Also, there's a lot of really poorly trained people or poorly managed people out there in the quality sphere who are coming in with QA titles doing QC. There's also a lot of half-trained, just largely incompetent developers who don't know how to write tests. I'm an equal opportunity yeller at her. But to your point about continuous delivery and it being, unobtainable or, always something you're chasing. I mean, it's not. You can get there. But one of the other goals of minimum CD is to put the challenge out there of problems to solve, because the thing that we saw when we started pushing for continuous delivery, the reason we started pushing for continuous delivery was to elevate engineering excellence. That the challenge of trying to solve these problems made you have to get better at these things that you can't. I gave a talk with a coworker in 2017 and called Continuous Delivery Solving the Talent Problem. And it was the talent's here. You use this as the lever to get the talent to learn new skills so that they become those people who can do that thing.
I'm gonna bring a couple of things together.
Yeah.
So, and like Benji's brain mine's going like not quite 37. I think it's more like 20.
Wait. There's one other thing. I'm sorry. I left one.
Okay.
I left
Go.
Yeah, Benjie, you're right about everybody kind of just making up that last, the last mile to production thing. At Walmart, we open sourced a tool to make that easy. It's called Concord. You can find it at concord.walmartlabs.com.
Concord with a C or with a K?
With a C. Concord.walmartlabs.com.
Yeah. So
right. Hold on. We're coming back to me again. You're coming back to me.
Sorry.
That's why I like getting in the ring with y'all, because I will hold my own here. So I want to go back to something that you were talking about, Benjie, that it seems like it's a mess. It's a ball of mud, it's spaghetti, whatever we want to call it. All right. So my background, right, a couple of decades as a software architect, but hands-on and always been able to be right in the fray of things, understood from very, very early the need to have basic decisions laid out for people. So I don't believe in full autonomy for everyone. So I actually think that's a pile of hooey. So I want to talk about this idea of autonomy for everyone, because I don't think everybody should be making all the decisions. Why do you think that we're getting so much forward momentum with platform engineering? That's because there's been too much autonomy, because everybody is a Agile team and everybody has their little thing and everybody makes their decisions, but my decisions are different than these automated testing people over here who are just starting to learn all of this. By not having better guardrails in place, right, for the organization. So every organization, to your point, Benjie, it's okay if your corporation and my corporation have different standards. That's okay, as long as they're surfaced and known and we apply those principles. What Bryan often talks about is coming back to those basic, right? Minimum CD. What are the basic principles that we have to be getting after? Are we following those? So I believe, really, really believe that we have to get after some of those basic requirements, basics. What are our standards going to be? What are our leading practices going to be? And then where we can, codifying them. So you don't have to, no choice about them, and making things more repeatable, right? That gets it into the code. So follow this, right? Imagine standards that are codified into a platform that make it easier for people to understand. We can start to train them. Their lives get easier. They can fix and do better and more important things. You get retention. It's magical. Think about this. This is magical. So Benjie, it's magic.
No, I see that. First off, I really like your Vogue that you were doing there. I don't know if it's yeah, but no, but you're absolutely right. Look, I think that one of the things that I proselytize throughout our community. Oh, I forgot to mention, I am the co-host of a sort of popular Kubernetes podcast called Kubeless. Check it out. And one of the things that we talk to all kinds of CNCF projects, talk to all kinds of founders and maintainers of all different sizes. We've talked to the Crossplane folks. We've talked to the Backstage folks. What the problem that I always point out, and I think I'm right, but obviously I think I'm right, is the lack of opinionation. And Kubernetes, as a person that is Kubernetes at the core of Shipyard, I've been involved in it since way before 1.0. I go back with a bunch of the core maintainers, all these things. It's extremely flawed from a social perspective, in the sense that it's presented as this, oh, everyone should use Kubernetes. No, not everyone should use Kubernetes. A lot of the principles are valuable. At the end of the day, if you have a legitimate production environment that needs any level of redundancy whatsoever, you absolutely should have a tool like Kubernetes. But you having to figure it out as a developer or even a DevOps person, like, there's a lot of things going on. That's the problem. And what it comes down to is there's 476 ways to do the same exact thing. That's not even including all the extra pieces of software that sort of do an extra piece of that for you, but then you have to configure it anyways. And I mean, YAML all the way down, right? It's just YAML on YAML on YAML on YAML. And so, to Brian's big point, and I think to your big point, Tracy, it's like, how do we actually get developers more productive? And I would extend that to product people, to QA people, to the entire organization. How do we get them more?
It should be the entire product organization. Everybody on the value stream should be more educated. We are going to see in the future, and not that very far away, what we're doing with platform engineering right now is actually very, very similar to what we've been doing with low code, no code for a while. Don't be a hater on the low code, no code. We're going to see, no, seriously, there's an intersectionality between them now that people don't want to talk to. What we are providing to our developers, right? It's all about the DevRel, right? The experience that they're having, development, making them more effective. It's exactly what low code and no code tooling and platforms, those are platforms as well. So I have a platform engineering to help my developers. I have low code and no code platforms to help my citizen developers.
Doesn't no one use those things? Isn't that the problem with the word?
No, it's not the problem. It's actually, hold on, but those two, we're going to see the intersectionality. We're going to see the continued growth of those things. And to your point, we're going to see, well, to Brian's point earlier, we are going to see AI as tooling injected into that as well. So we are going to continually try and take away the pain, codify the goodness, the good behaviors, the things that we want to see people doing, the security needs that we have, the cross-cutting mandates that we have for the ways that we're doing things. We're going to continue to see that. That's going to be, that's super important, all of this, but everybody has to be educated.
Something that drives me crazy. So I got in a thread on Twitter a few days ago, and I was talking, I was asking a question. Somebody was talking about Makefile and using Make, and I've been looking for a solution to enforce pre-commit hooks on Make. So you pull down my project and you're going to get a pre-commit hook to enforce things like linting and running the tests before you commit and that sort of thing. And somebody jumped in and started talking about how I was infringing on his freedom if I automatically added Git hooks. I'm like, it's just basic platform engineering 101. Make it difficult to make mistakes. I don't, it's not.
Dude, how dare you step on my autonomy? How dare you? I am a developer. I demand total autonomy. We're agile. That means no design up front. That means we don't make any documents. That means we just talk to each other and then I go and do what I want. That's how it's done.
Yeah, I hate the prima donna developer mentality. It's like, yeah, I may work on a team, but I'm the most important person on the team and we're going to do it my way. I hate that.
I mean, well, let's be real, everybody. Pretty much that's how the majority, I mean, hey, maybe that's a good thing about all the boot campers coming in, is like, they don't know that being a prima donna is like prerequisite for being a good engineer. So there's a positive, but
I don't know if I like the term prima donna, quite frankly, but we're not going to go down that path yet.
So let me
what's a good word? I'm sorry.
I'm joking. It's
okay.
It's
well,
okay.
you already
just
like Vogue, so I figured it would be fine.
No, but I mean, like the way I operate personally, I have very strong opinions. I do. And I have very strong opinions. Yeah, I know. And I have very strong opinions about how I want to work. But if I come join a team, I'm not going to go make the team work the way I want to work. I'm going to find out how the team works, if there's things that are like suboptimal, I will make suggestions and move us towards less sucky. But if the team, like I don't personally like to use TypeScript. If the team uses TypeScript, they'll use TypeScript.
Yeah, but
I don't
there's
care.
a difference. There's a difference in what we're talking about, the levels of decision making and the levels of conformity. So I went into an organization and they literally had React over here, and what the heck was the other one? But they're they're sitting side by each. And I'm like, why? Well, we wanted to learn these different languages. Like you've just proliferated, and there's no reason for this. So there does need to be decision points. So if somebody wants to use, like if it's something that helps them, great. If it injects complexity, unnecessary complexity for the sake of Bryan being the prima donna, yes, I said it, Benji, I said prima donna. If we injected that, then we need to take a step back. So part of the problem, right? This is gonna, I'm getting way far out there on the fringe. We get there. We get there. We get to that point because we have too many of the young. We have we have an influx of younger in career. We have those of us who are a little more gray bearded that have it. And there's been this missing piece in the middle because everybody was doing things in a kind of a free love kind of way. So we don't have enough middle to teach the younger. So there's actually not enough mentoring going on to get where we need them to go.
Well, and I want to go back to something, Benji, you said earlier when you were talking about like the SREs focusing on perfect code and all that sort of thing. I totally agree. And it's not that there's not enough middle mentoring. It's that the middle doesn't understand what the problem is in the first place. The problem, this goes to testing and to every attitude we should have about everything, is what I'm doing right now contributing to solving the business problem. And that's it. 100% is what I'm doing right now contributing to solving the business problem. Is this opinion I have going to solve the business problem better or worse? I was working with a team one time that had 4 different languages in their stack, and they were going to create the new service they're going to build and write in a 5th language because they wanted to learn Python. Is this contributing to solving the business problem, or is this contributing to your, it's kind of fun, we should just do whatever we want?
Well, that's my point. But that is my point. And I'm going to go back and say we are missing that middle mentoring. We are missing that because your point was that those people don't know the question to ask. So yes, we're missing that because we don't have that. There's a missing layer of experience to even teach these things. The words that you're saying need to get echoed out. It needs to go from the top to the middle to the most junior person out there. Everybody needs to have those. I know we are.
All right. Everyone calm down. Calm down.
I'm gonna tell you guys don't get in between us. Don't get between us.
I'm physically in between you on my Zoom thing, so I don't know if it's.
No, you're like on mine. You're like the Brady Bunch at the bottom guy.
There's like 3 things here.
That
I want to point out. Number 1, and I'll be quick. Number 1, I am all about. I think you said it a second ago, Tracy. Guardrails. Like I'm not that interested in mentoring all of this because it's just a waste of time. And frankly, the amount of, this is not something I should be saying, but I don't care.
That's what we do here, man.
I don't know the politically appropriate way to say this, but there's some validity to the whole like snowflake thing where everyone's like, me. It's all about me. And so like, I don't think we're going to I don't see that getting better. I see people being more entitled. I see people being less about what is important for their job and more about what's important for themselves. Now, that's not to say that, there's a balance there. And I really believe in that. At Shipyard, look, we have a few rules. Health comes first, one team, deliver. Like we have some stuff here. So I'm not just unequivocally saying like, only thing that matters is the company. But what I am saying is that like, it's so far gone from like the North Star of what the company's trying to accomplish for most of the younger folks in the workforce right now. It's like, that's a little bit of a lost cause. That's just one thing I'm going to say. So rather than try and, I think we should be educating, to your point, Tracy, but rather than that, there are components I'm not going to even talk about the software stack stuff. I'm just going to leave that alone. I'll let some engineering managers deal with that shenanigans. I'm going to talk about the infrastructure and the deployment and the environment stuff. And what I'm saying is we need to be prescriptive and say, use minimum CD. There's another thing that Shipyard actually sponsors called ephemeral-environments.io that Bryan has been helping a little bit with that. Use the concepts here. Here are best practices for CD. Here are best practices for ephemeral environments. Use tools, don't use tools, but use the best practices. And whoever is the DevOps, SRE, whatever leader, they put these in place. And there's no, oh, my team uses Azure DevOps and my team uses GitHub and my team uses GitLab. It's like, no, everyone uses this, okay? And maybe fine, Git is the common denominator in that one, not to get into the rabbit hole. I'm okay with that. But this is how you push code. This is what happens when the code is pushed. This is the requirements on the testing side. These are the things that have to happen. And we use resources like minimum CD to like start here and iterate, because I don't want to teach people because they're always going to think that they're better. Like I'm the same way. I'm throwing stones here in a glass house.
You got to. So you said we need to be prescriptive. I'm going to push you and say, who the hell are we? We need to be prescriptive in every hold on, let me finish. In every organization, there's not necessarily that person or those people who have the experience to be able to say, right? So I'm saying we're missing that experience. Well, that's what
use Shipyard.
Yeah, buy a tool and it'll fix it all. I'm saying but yes and it's a yes and. Hold on, it's a yes and. It's a yes and. It's a yes and. We need people and enabling tools. There still has to be. I will not ignore the fact that the Gen Zs coming in have a different perspective than the millennials, a different perspective than the Gen Xers, than the boomers. I will not. We know that they all have very different things that matter to them, and we have to deal with them different ways. I got to tell you, nothing worse than a 50-year-old prima donna. Let me tell you that. I'll take that over.
And let me start that. I've talked to a lot of people, that's what happens when you have strong opinions. You have a lot of strong opinions pushing back.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed the Snowflake have an age limit.
No, they don't.
No, Snowflake, there's no age. There's no ageism to Snowflake. There's no generational thing. It's all industry.
There's a whole bunch of Snowflakes as older than I am, let me tell you. But the most joyful experience I've ever had delivering code was using Walmart Cloud Native Platform, which is incredibly opinionated. Which means because it's so opinionated, I can get a pipeline to production in 10 minutes and start shipping a brand new service. In 10 minutes with no drama, full security, all the monitoring and alerting I want, and start focusing on solving the real problem instead of solving the problem of solving the problem.
Yeah, but there are a lot of folks that like that.
Having those guardrails in place where you have, but also to your point, Tracy, the people that founded Walmart Platform were the really smart people who really understood how things like continuous delivery should work and built a platform with guardrails focused on that, and with the goal of we're not going to do what everybody asks. People still keep asking that area for better support for Git flow, and the answer is no. Right? That's dumb. No, that's not on our roadmap, but we'll teach you CD. And the guardrails, it's like on a superhighway. You don't have crossroads on a superhighway. You go really, really fast. You have on-ramps and off-ramps, and they're controlled, but you go really fast.
I think we're all getting back to some central themes that are here. In order for businesses, in order for agencies, in order for organizations to get the value that they need, to get the things that they need into production, into the hands of those people, need to get a workforce that it is enabled by tools. Those tools have codified leading practices, whether we call it a single platform, multiple platforms, however we want to layer and talk about that, having that ecosystem that makes it so that they get that joy out of delivering value. And I mean, those people who are involved in creating the value get that charge when they deliver that value. Bryan, I agree with you that nothing brings more joy then when you get something into the hands of the people that it's meant for and they delight in it. And I can tell you that that happens whether it is with a platform that's been engineered sitting on top of Kubernetes, or whether it's with a low code and no code environment. And what I'm pushing at on that is there is joy in being able to do that. There are still going to be some of those folks who just want to squirrel away and just want to write code. Bryan, and I know you have a good rant on this. They just want to write code. It's not about that anymore. It's not just about writing code. If you want to just go whittle, you'd go over there and whittle, and we'll go over here and do things together that bring real value in the end.
You know, I've been running some small experiments with ChatGPT assisted development. And I had this hypothesis I wanted to test, which is if I can describe the business problem in testable ways, will I get a usable application out of that? And the answer is yes. And the people who just want to sit in a corner and code and not care about the business problem, I can replace you with a machine today. You're warned. Your value is dropping every single day.
Well, I think
not quite.
I think that the big thing, I can't speak to Copilot or anything like that very well. I don't get to write code much these days. But I think that, Tracy, going back to your question, like obviously everyone should use Shipyard, duh. But opinionation, that is what I think needs to, is that even a word? I think that's a word. Opinionation? I'm not sure that's a word.
I don't know.
But
highly opinionated. Just say highly
being
opinionated.
Opinionated. I'm pretty sure opinionation is not a word. But having an opinionated way of how you handle things from the top down is the key. So again, think about, you know, we use Jira, we use Linear, we use Shortcut or Clubhouse, whatever. We do Kanban, we do Agile, we do Waterfall, we work from 9 to 5, we work from 8 to 11, we have support from 8 to 9. Like every other part of your business, there's like, this is how we do things. Now we're open to changing it and we might modify it. But when it comes to deployment and all these things, it's just like the Wild West. It's like, oh, hey, here's an article I read, like try and do something like that. And then there's all these like practical things that come into play. And it's just like, well, I wrote this Slack bot 3 companies ago. I'm going to do that again. You know? Oh, well, now it's Discord. And it's just like, are you using chat ops to deploy? Fine. That seems a little antiquated at this point. No, not antiquated, but it's, so the point is that being opinionated is the problem. And it's at the root of, I feel like what I'm trying to fix, what we're trying to fix at Shipyard is the root of the thing that's driving Bryan insane. And that is that you can't do all these things if you're not consistently having an opinion on how to do them and what is expected. But I do want to say that there is room, if you have an opinionated system, there is room for the coder in the corner to just do their thing. And you can enable, because I know some coders that are like, you want them to just go off in the corner, but you want them to have direction and then like a safety net of other people
practices,
working with
guiding practices, guardrails around them, go in the corner, but you're still on our farm. You're still on our property. You're still inside our fences. You're still inside our guardrails. That's all.
I think we're all just agreeing very heavily in opinionated
That's really what
ways.
we do. But but also the Agile industrial complex is also making this worse.
I'm sorry, did you just call it the Agile industrial?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I didn't realize. I know there's the
That's a thing. The Agile industrial complex is also making this worse. I had somebody who's like, I don't know, an Agile coach or something, and I was talking about how Cucumber, writing Gherkin test scenarios and feeding them into Cucumber as an end-to-end testing engine after development is done is not behavior-driven development, right? And this guy responded back and said, that's because it's called acceptance test-driven development. I said, only if the acceptance tests are written first. He's like, well, in some contexts, it might just mean that we eventually write acceptance tests. No, I mean, these words have meaning. You can't just make shit up because it's agile. You think it's agile. It's agile to just change the meaning of things to fit to make people feel good about what they're doing poorly, right? That's just not how it works. there's, the thing I really
Sorry,
love.
Bryan, that is how it works. It shouldn't work that way, but that is how it works. Just a FYI.
It's just like there are standards. There are things that are objectively true. You can't just like change stuff. And the thing I love so much about continuous delivery is because my entire career I've been focused on how do we solve the business problem? How do we do it with less drama so I can sleep at night and have happier customers? To your point, Tracy, the first time you deploy something and you talk to the user and they hate it, that's also really powerful.
Oh, been there, done that. Multi-year programs, and
that's
finally get. Oh, I got parachuted into a situation where the end user, they were in user acceptance testing. This is a real story. I got parachuted in to try and figure out why and this is the consulting agencies and contractors and organizations. They walked away from the table during UAT. The end users, the people who are buying this, the people who are waiting for, because they hadn't seen it before. First time I saw it was when it came to UAT. Those people were not involved 2 to 3 years earlier when a whole bunch of other people had said what they thought they kind of wanted, and those people left. And so here are these hard and rigid upfront requirements that were then passed from this organization over to the next organization. And then there was no continuity. There was no feedback. It was melee. But it got back to that, it burned. But the whole thing was there was no continuity through it. There wasn't that understanding, and it took so long to get. So Bryan, what we brought to the table was exactly what you said. Sat down with folks and said, okay, we're going to push that over there. That big pile dumpster fire, that dumpster fire is going over there. Let's get together and we're going to apply Agile mindset. Oh my goodness. How involved people got. They literally had walked away, had not gone into the same offices anymore. We're not talking to each other. And all of a sudden there's excitement. And there were Post-it notes on the wall, and we were talking about how things were going to be done. And we leveraged platforms to enable us to get the things done. And they could see this in advance. We got them to agree. They were all geared up for UAT. We got them to agree to user acceptance, which was automated. They were part of automating up front so that they knew what those final regression and acceptance tests were. And they were so excited because they could, we can play it over anytime we want. Yeah. You get to see them. You get to be a part of it.
It's amazing what happens when you focus on solving the problem and delivery versus on meeting the contract or, making people feel good about sucking. When you get people together and get them aligned to, we're gonna deliver stuff. And, the reason I push for CD so hard is because of the joy we felt when we actually got to deliver stuff and see it being used within, days or hours and not months or years. It's just such a joyful way to live as somebody on a product team, to see your stuff being used, that shipping became addictive. You got an endorphin hit every time you committed code, rolled to production and didn't blow up.
Yep. So we are coming close to an hour, my friends. Benjie, my new friend Benjie. People are going to be listening to this. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to be excited. They're going to be all over the map. But as you walk away from this conversation today, what's one thing that you would like to leave behind for folks other than buy Shipyard?
Well, obviously. No, I mean, I kind of just went off on my rant on that stuff, but maybe I'll just if you have multiple pieces of infrastructure tooling that you're using at different stages of different environments, i.e. you use CDK for one thing, use Terraform over there, use Pulumi over there, you're making your life harder. Standardizing on one thing should be the goal. And I know, to the conversation we just had, there was some other person that really wanted to try out this tool. But I think to what Bryan said is just say no. And just understand that your job is not to make people happy. It is to make the experience good, but sometimes just saying no and knowing what's best, and then also saying, oh, I'm wrong, let's shift everything over here. That's also important. But being consistent, that's what I think everyone should be aspiring to, from your stack, from your infrastructure, from how you deploy things. I do think that's something that we all should aspire to, and it's something that I really believe in. And just because it's complicated does not mean it's good. I went to computer science school a long time ago, and I say this to everybody all the time: KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Pretty sure we're not even allowed to say that now because we're saying someone's stupid, but you're not stupid. It's just a saying, KISS, KISS. But like, there's a reason for that. And so I would say everyone should do that. Now, I do want to leave us with one piece of hope. I will say that I've seen things getting so much better in the last year across the board. I think the forcing function is efficiency. I think that the ridiculous hiring, the ridiculous salaries, what VC/tech, etc., it just flushed us with too much money, and where we had all this sprawl. I think that that's starting to get reined in. And so I think there's some positives there. I think if you're worried about your job, I mean, I can tell you right now, I've had like 5-10 resumes come across my desk in the last like 2 days from friends. Like, we're filming this the second day of February. Tech is doing their annual lay everybody off to have better profits thing in the public sector. So everyone's freaking out. I think we're going to be fine. Everyone calm down. But there's a lot of stuff happening. And what I'm trying to get at here is, if you want to protect your job, like, care about your job, figure out what the North Star is of your company, and try and help with that. And frankly, if the North Star of your company is something you don't believe in, Facebook, then quit. Go do something else. Like, if you're like working on an oil rig company and you're like, well, I don't really want to make sure that we kill as many SEALs as possible, then quit. And make sure you're aligned at a company where what you're doing matters, because to both of your points, it should feel good when you write code and people use your stuff. It shouldn't feel like, oops, I just helped murder 7 humpback whales. Sorry, I don't know why I'm going on about the environment. I'm just very upset about how it won't snow in New York.
Oh, okay. Is that where you're at? You in New York, Benji?
I'm in New York, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're East Coast with me.
Yeah.
Bryan, there's always so much to unpack at the end of these conversations. You guys have actually worn me out, and it's not really late night, I got to tell you. So, plus, Bryan is normally the one who like interjects over me, and I decided today was going to be the day that I was going to be like, no, you can't do it. So, Benji, you got to experience kind of a whole new tit for tat with Bryan and I. We need like this. Back in the day, you used to have soccer boppers. Like, I'm dying to get some and like be co-located with Bryan. It's like,
wait, what's a soccer bopper?
Yeah. Tell your age. Oh, shut up. Oh.
I don't.
I know what a vuvuzela is.
Oh my gosh. Look up soccer boppers. And by the way, that optimization, that word that you came up with, that you invented, it's a real word. Opinionation. It's a word. Well, at least Wiki says, Wikipedia. Wikipedia says it. So Bryan,
I want to echo something Benji said.
Okay.
Is that, so I've been fortunate in that every job I've had since my first software development job, it was something that was actually helping people, that I knew that I was helping people. I've done things in my career that have actually changed people's lives and their ability to bring home more income and, contribute more to their family. Now I help work on stuff that helps protect our nation. I mean, these are missions that I believe in. And like the company I work for, Defense Unicorns, everybody there is what I would consider Navy SEAL of software development. That they're on top of their game, they're mission driven, they know what they're trying to do, they're always striving to do better all the time. And everybody should work in that environment. I worked in that environment in Walmart Platform. That was the organization that got built by Jason Benzil, was a bunch of Navy SEALs. By the way, when you're stacked ranked against a bunch of Navy SEALs, it's really hard to get, top of the bell curve. Everybody should work in that environment. And like you said, Benji, if you just don't care about the job, you're not learning, you're not progressing your career, and you're on the chopping block pretty soon. go find something you care about, be good at it, take it seriously. And it's not about the code. The code is the tool to solve the problem. It's about the problem you're solving.
100%. So there are 4 or 5 things that I want to respond to there, and I'm not going to, because in the essence of time, I want to be respectful for everybody. I think a couple of the most important takeaways are exactly what you said, Bryan, that we need to make sure that people are enjoying what they're doing. And sometimes that's putting the guardrails around it so they can run faster and do better things. We do need to educate. That's why we're doing a podcast, right? We're not just, well, plus we like to get
I mean, I'm doing it to drink and rant, but
I know, oh, shushy you. But we do get together so that we can help people understand that there are different ways of doing things. Benjie, that's why you're building tools and helping to get after these issues, is to make it a little bit better. There do need to be guardrails, and we do need to care. So if everybody cares and likes the content that we have in today's session in our rant, please hit like and subscribe, leave your comments below. You can always reach out to Bryan, myself, and I'm going to guess that Benjie's going to put himself out there and say you can ping him as well. And we'll see you on the next On the Road to DevHops. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.